Hello, it's Eve. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for being here. Today I wanted to talk to you about the 5 best pattern cutting or pattern making books that I have used. It's not a very long video, but I thought it's a great one that's kind of needed because a lot of people ask me about pattern making. So the very first book I ever used was Winifred Aldrich's Metric Pattern Cutting for Women's Wear. So this is a revised version. It's the 6th edition. I had one of the very older ones when I first started out, and I remember the very first pattern I ever made from this book. I was studying at Central St. Martin's. I was doing a bunch of different short courses whilst working full-time as a nanny. And I remember the very first thing that I made from this. We had to create a block. It was for the pro sewing course actually. So we had to take in a pattern and we had to cut it out and sew it there to learn the professional sewing techniques that we were being taught in that class. And I didn't have a pattern, and at the time I don't even know if digital patterns were a thing, but I didn't want to go out and buy a pattern. I wanted to make my own. And I had this book sitting on my shelf, so I made a coat pattern from it. I messed it up, I did it so bad. But I used the coat section. So it was like the classic coat pattern, the process. And I used my measurements. I don't remember exactly how I did it, but I was drafting on this carpet using paper, scrappy bits of paper, stick together. And I just added, obviously I didn't know at the time that I should be doing toiles and stuff properly. And so I just cut it out and I was using this awful fabric. It was like a polyester, a deep dark blue. And it had this, there's a word for it and I can't think what it's called, but it had like a raised velvet surface and it looked very kind of Victorian. But what I had not done properly was measure my shoulder length, and so I had made my shoulder longer than it needed to be, so the puff fell off the shoulder and looked ghastly. But it was the very first pattern. I'll see if I can find a photo. I'm not sure if I have any. If I do, I'll pop it here. But it was the very first pattern I completely self-drafted, which is why I remember it. That was from Winifred Aldrich. What I love about this book, and some of the designs are typically quite dated, but like she goes through and it shows you how to break apart like a pattern. So it's great for like pattern hacking. So if you already have like a bodice pattern or something that you love from, it might be one that you've draped yourself. You can see I've got measurements in here from a recent project. If you've got measurements, if you've got a pattern that you love, you can always modify it. Like we've got like yokes, how to do different yokes on skirts, that kind of thing. So it's a good way of just getting your creative juices going. Sometimes I'll just like pull out a Hilda, you know, my mini dress form. I'll pull out hers and I'll just like pick something from here and just do it, just to keep the creative juices going. But this is the very first pattern making book I ever used. I'll link all of these down in the description in case you want to check them out for yourself. But yeah, I recommend it. And you can pick them up secondhand, quite cheap. I am saving my favorite pattern making book until the end, so stay tuned for that. But next on the list, and this was one that I picked up after doing a bunch of classes at Central St. Martin's and before I did my fashion degree. I did a BTEC in pattern making. It was called like a BTEC in pattern cutting or something. It was like a funny little college in London. And one of the books, there was a book that they recommended for sewing, and then there was this book. And this is by Martin Schoben and Janet Ward. Martin Schoben, I think, has at some point worked at Central St. Martin's, I'm not sure. He definitely is the one that definitely created this fashion curve. I'm sure this was a Schoben. Yeah, Schoben fashion media. I don't like this fashion curve. I should probably do a giveaway and give it to someone. It was a gift from David because my hard plastic pattern master, I'd sat on it and broken it and I hadn't got around to getting this new version yet. But I like the hard plastic. It's easier for me. I mean, if you've got a really large working table, it's probably great. It's nice and flexy if you like that, but I just find it a little bit big for my needs. So I think I've maybe used it once. He bought it for me when we were still in London in 2017. That's how long I've had it. But this is the book written by Martin Schoben. He's got 2. This is number 1. There may be more, I don't know. I have the second volume somewhere as well. But this is like the pattern cutting and making up. So it's like, it'll look at like things like fit if you've got like a slight error. So obviously if you're cutting a bodice and you're cutting it as a like a V, you're cutting across, typically your straight grain is going to be going down, right, in parallel to your center front. If you cut across to create a V neck, you're cutting on the bias, so it's going to stretch out. So there are tips and tricks in here, like you would then pinch out that and you'll pivot that excess into a dart elsewhere so that you're just keeping it a little bit tighter and snugger along the bust area. All sorts in here. He covers measurement taking, making up, so like the constriction process, illuminating waist seams, collars, openings and fastenings. It's probably why I don't use it so much, because a lot of it I already know from having gone to fashion school, and prior to that, like doing all the short courses that I did at Central St. Martin's. But that's another good one. If you're just starting out, you might find it really helpful. I quite like the different illustrations and stuff. I think they're quite nice. The making up part is like if you've done the pattern for like a shirt, it talks you through like how to make up that shirt. But if you prefer videos, then stay tuned because I'll be creating those kind of videos as well. Third on my list is pattern cutting for menswear. This is by Gareth Kershaw. I'm not sure who Gareth Kershaw is. Apparently he's a senior lecturer at the Department of Apparel in Manchester Met University. Manchester Met has a good fashion degree course. But this is specific for menswear, and the reason that I got this is because I had zero experience with menswear. I did a menswear project when I was at fashion school. We call it, in the UK, we call it university, but in the US, you call it fashion school, and possibly elsewhere in the world. So I always refer to it as fashion school, but I did a fashion degree in fashion, a degree in fashion. And we only had one project for menswear, and my menswear was not that good. That was the design aspect, but obviously pattern making is different. So what I love about this is it has different projects in it. So this is like the short sleeved safari shirt. And it will walk you through like the process. If you don't have an experience of pattern making for men, this is kind of handy. I'll just tell you the projects quickly. So he has chapter 1 is on pattern cutting, so the kind of things you need, the pattern process. So again, like I've talked about with your different blocks, so your trouser block, your shirt block, your jacket block, and then you take those and you develop those into ideas. And tracing off, a little bit on grading. Then you've got different patterns that he walks you through. So we've got different kinds of shirts: grandad, polo, sweatshirt, lumberjack shirt, bib shirt, different trousers like tailored shorts, chinos, jeans, and then outerwear as well. So there's single and double-breasted jackets, there's the cagoule, a wax jacket, parka, that kind of thing. I actually have a parka pattern that could be unisex. Actually, it is more of a unisex look, but I'll be releasing that later this year. But this is a menswear specific book. So I mean, I say menswear, but if you are a person who identifies as non-female, I never get that right. David always pulls me up on that. Non-female or non, I always get it wrong. But basically, if you like to wear clothing that is not fitted to your typical waist and boobs, you probably will like this too, because I do. It's a very simple to follow, as you can see from the directions. It's very clean. I can't say I've used it an awful lot, but when I have used it, I've enjoyed using it. So that is pattern cutting for menswear, and again, links in the description. So the fourth book I have on my list, and I have loads. So I've got like all the dress fitting, pattern designing from Natalie Bray. I've got the haute couture versions from Antonio Donano. So there's like 3. I've got their children's and different haute couture ones. I've got grading books. I've got draping books, I've got the whole shebang. So these are just the ones that I think are like, if you're going to really get into pattern making, you might want to choose one of these. One that I absolutely love is Zero Waste Fashion Design. So technically it's a fashion design book. It's all about zero waste, but you can see what I love about it is it gives you the images of zero waste designs, but also, oh, did you see that? Like, you can see things that help you think about how you would cut a zero waste pattern, which I think is great. I quite often do this on the computer. So here's another one. I'll just get out either a piece of paper, like an A4 piece of paper, and oh, there's another one there, or my computer illustrator, which is Adobe, and I'll just like mess around and create like a zero waste pattern. Doesn't always work out, but I think it's just great for the brain to get more like creative and think about different possibilities. So if you are into like more sustainable practices and want to experiment with zero waste, it's not technically a pattern cutting book, but it will help your brain start thinking that way. This is my favorite, all-time favorite. You'll see because it's falling apart. It's really knackered, and I have had this for so long. Look, it's falling apart. It's that well used over the years. I got this so many years ago. Pattern Making for Fashion Design. This is the 4th edition, Helen Joseph Armstrong. It's an expensive book if I remember correctly. I think this is a replacement one because the one that I originally had, I got lost or stolen. But this is the second version that I found. It is, I meant to tape it together. Like, if you're going to buy a pattern making book, get this one. This one is like, I call it my Bible. I don't have to take it out very often because my brain has the concepts of pattern making in it from having like done it for so long and teaching it to others and implementing it. But sometimes I pull it out just for inspiration. And it's a bloody brilliant book. It's like, it has everything. So like from the workroom, your model or dress form, your basic blocks, dot manipulation. I mean, all of this I cover on my website anyway, but if you wanted to have like a book that you have this in, contouring, remember how I talk about contouring? There's a section on yokes, flanges, pin ducks and pleat ducks, collars, designing with darts, skirts, necklines, cowls, sleeves, dresses without waistline seams, dresses with them, knockoff or copying. I've got a few clone your clothes articles, working with knit fabrics, swimwear, dancewear, children's wear, bodysuits, leotards, maillot and swimwear. As you can see, it's like it's so heavy. I have on occasion been known to take it if I've know that I'm going away for like more than a couple of weeks. I've been known to take it with me just to like flick through. It's my Bible. I love it so much. So if you're serious about pattern making and you can afford to get one, get it. I'll leave the link in the description below, but it's precious. So those are the 5 pattern making books that I heartily recommend that you check out. There are so many more, as I've already mentioned. There's loads that I have had at some point that I've given away, like the pattern magic pattern making books. Have I given them away, or have I just stored them somewhere further away? I got the original Japanese ones and I translated or I managed to find like English translations of those. I might have given them away. They're here somewhere otherwise, like buried in a cupboard, because I don't use them anymore. Like, they're quite experimental and they're fun to like look through. So there's loads of books, loads and loads and loads. Pattern making's becoming quite a popular topic. I was ahead of the curve because I've loved it for years and years and years. But if it is something that's exciting for you, these are the 5 books that I recommend you take a look at. You can possibly get them at your local library. And of course, don't forget, you can get them secondhand, like the Winifred Aldrich. Like, the original one I had of this was like a kind of like an aubergine purpley maroony red. This is a new version, and you know, back then when I started, the old version was perfectly fine. So if you could pick them up maybe in car boot store sales or like thrift shops or charity shops, like have a look around. Don't rely upon buying them online if you don't have to. But yeah, these are the best of the best, creme de la creme in my opinion. Other people will have different opinions, but these are the ones that I love and use. So I'm going to stop waffling. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back in a few days' time with another video. Stay tuned. I think my uploading schedule has changed. Very few people were watching on Sundays when I was publishing my videos. So we're going to try Mondays and Thursdays for a bit and see how those do. And we are primarily focusing more on pattern making, and there'll be some like sewing tutorials and refashionings. Apparently y'all aren't so interested in fashion design. So we'll see. I might test that again later on in the year, but for now we'll focus on some pattern making stuff. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.